Well, hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Corona Spotlight. The Summer Spotlight. I am your host, Gayle Nicholson, and I am so happy to see you once again today. Today, I am interviewing a remarkable state of mind coach from the UK. She is phenomenal at what she does with women in midlife. And I am really excited about what she's offering because I am one of her target market. Um, I am reinventing my life now that the kids are out of the home and I have all of this time at my disposal. And I'm so very happy to be sharing her work with you today. Please help me welcome Miss Neeta O'Keeffe, State of Mind Coach at Neeta O'Keefe Coaching. Thank you so much for joining us today, Neeta. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks, Gail. Lovely to be here with you.
It's
Excited.
wonderful to have you. It's almost, well, technically not the end of summer yet here in the United States or in the world, North America. Um, Solstice isn't for a couple more weeks, but you being in the UK, your end of summer festivities are over, and how is the fall looking for you ahead?
Yeah, well, for us over here in the UK, we've had sort of it's back to school season, which feels a little different to most every other year. Of course, but it's a little bit of normality as well, so that's kind of really nice. And it's always that feeling of autumn for us. So yeah, it's good. It's good to sort of embrace that time of year. And we had sweltering heat and heat waves. So I think we're all kind of, enjoying a milder temperatures as well.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, the weather in the UK this year has been just absolutely, mind-bogglingly hot compared to normal, hasn't it?
Yep, it has. And every year, actually, we seem to get these weeks of heat waves. And this year was just, sort of the worst, if you like. And combining that with, can you go out, can you mingle, can you do this, can you do that? So it was, yeah, it was different, but lovely nonetheless. It was still lovely just to have that sun and that heat,
Nice.
and to
Well,
enjoy it
I
full.
imagine that you would like it better than your average common person who lives in the UK because I have it on good authority that you did a 100-day hot yoga event and you absolutely loved it. Now that's a little over the top for me. Tell me
It,
about it.
well, I have to tell you, it wasn't 100 days of hot yoga. It was
Okay.
40 days of
Oh,
hot yoga. I did 100 days of Facebook Lives recently, so that
that's
could
right.
be what you
That's
may have heard.
my
I did
confusion.
that. I was living in Singapore. I was an expat, and yeah, I got into hot yoga, and this challenge came up for charity, and it was, early morning yoga for about 90 minutes to 2 hours and 40 consecutive days. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. I seem to like challenges, I've realized, and that was definitely one of them. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't do it so much now. But yeah, I really did embrace the hot yoga back then.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It hasn't
I've
helped me,
seen
by the
people.
way, with the sorry, Gail, I was just going to say that it hasn't helped me though to be able to cope with the really hot weather. I wish it did over here, but no, it hasn't.
I imagine. I imagine not. It took me a while to get used to Arizona desert weather as well. Last week was 116. We've got a cooling off period going on. It's only about 76 degrees now,
Oh,
which is livable.
yeah,
It's
it is.
livable.
And quite a jump as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Forgive me for, I don't want to get into this, rabbit hole of weather, but here in the United States yesterday, South Dakota did a 75-degree dip. They went from being 90 degrees one day to having 6 inches of snow by the next morning.
Oh, snow.
Snow.
Yeah, I've
Somebody,
not heard about this. No. Wow.
yeah, it snowed in two places in the U.S. last night. It's insane. I can't believe it. Oh,
Yeah.
so let's actually get into the meat and potatoes of what we really want to talk about today, and that is your work with women in midlife. tell me to begin with how you happened upon that this particular niche was the one you should be working for.
It's something that I was thinking about this actually only today, I guess, in preparation for the interview. And I realized it's something that has been a bit of a theme, or it's popped into my world throughout, even when I was in my, I think, 30 or early 30s. And I remember this woman telling me about how women get really busy with their life, and they study and they go off and work, and then they meet someone, get married, have kids, have a house, and all of those things, and they're really busy with that. And then you get to this stage in your life where you actually start to take stock. You start to sort of hear your kind of, I don't know, inner calling, or those memories of what you wanted to do when you were younger. And I was always fascinated. I always remember her telling me this. It was a woman in Hong Kong, actually, when I lived there for a couple of years. And then I did a master's in counseling when I lived in Singapore. And one of the modules, we touched on midlife, and midlife as a transition, a period of transition. It's not a crisis. And I love that. And again, I was in my 30s, I think mid to late 30s, but I was fascinated with it. And I was counseling and coaching at the time. And I was working with executives, men and women, and expats. And I started to see that sort of dissatisfaction, that disconnection, coming through. And so when I learned about the fact that it's a transitionary period, and it's a time of growth, it's generative, that actually filled me with a lot of hope. And I just started to see something so different to the cliche of the midlife crisis. And so that's originally how I sort of came across it. And then I guess my own experience as well.
You bring up a great phrase that I'd like to kind of dig into a little bit, and that is that stereotypical midlife crisis. It tends to look different for women than it does, like we've been shown through TV and movies and stuff, with men experiencing. Men tend to go for, expressions of power, a brand new, sports car, conquesting people that aren't their wife, that type of thing. How is it different for women? What do women really experience when they're not necessarily directing the energy of midlife into a new creation, but actually having the crisis part of it?
Yeah, well, I don't want to say it's more complicated for women and take anything away from men there, but I think that with women, there's a number of things going on, and I'm going to talk about right now the sort of world we live in. Women are not only sort of dealing maybe with the empty nest, but then they might have aging parents as well that they, that they sort of look after, or it's just a real concern. So that's sort of on the top of their mind. There's still very much this sense of responsibility and taking care of people. But I think also what's shifted now for women compared to maybe 20, 30 years ago is that women might have more earning power. There's more independence. And there is a growing sense of that independence can then also lead women down, in another direction of, well, I don't feel satisfied. I'm not sure why. And I think it's because of him or this or that. And therefore, I'm going to now look at something else. And I'm going to look outside for that. And so that's also happening a lot now as well for women too. And so it's typically what tends to happen is, or what I'm seeing with the women I work with, is that, they might be forced into something. It could be separation, could be divorce, it could be, bereavement through a job loss, for example, or, their children leaving home, and that huge role that as a mother and a parent that they had, and the amount of time all of those things take up. Now there's this huge gap, and it's, what do I do with this? And women, and I did this too, start to look to yourself and you go, oh, okay, well, I've been really busy with all of these things, didn't really pay it much attention, or maybe I pushed it away, suppressed it. And thought one day, might have had an idea of what something I wanted to do, but it was always like a one day, one day I sort of call it like your one day plan, that kind of never really happens. Um, and now that dissatisfaction, I think, is really those thoughts and those feelings really bubbling up, and kind of going, hey, you know what, maybe it's time to sort of pay attention to yourself in a really nice, gentle, but way that's going to make life feel meaningful. And usually life doesn't feel as meaningful, and that's where that disconnection, feeling lost, dissatisfied, wondering, is this it, that kind of phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Or I thought there was more, or time's running out, or everyone else looks younger than me. I remember having that. I remember going to a train station and seeing all the ads, all these women that just looked like they were in their 20s or early 30s. And I thought, oh, they're really young. Why are they so young? And I realized that happened too, back in the 80s and 90s when I was sort of that age. But this is what happens. And so I think it's all of those things that kind of lead, as I say, to this sort of crisis, and what everyone thinks is a crisis. And I talk a lot about how the messages in society are either advertising, which is over 50, get your health, get your insurance, start saving for the cost of a funeral, go on a cruise, get ready for retirement, health issues, all of that. Or the other side is, do something really big and go on this massive adventure, do your eat, pray, love, wild, thing.
Yeah.
And both can kind of seem overwhelming as well, and it's like, can I do it my way? And for a lot of women, that just doesn't even occur to them. And that's what I like to talk about is, well, how can you just start this phase of your life in a way that works for you? So,
I
of
love
course.
that. I absolutely love that. Now, I know that you've helped quite a few women worldwide in the course of the time that you've been doing this work. Specifically, the ones that come to you wanting to create something new out of their midlife. What are some of the top issues, if you will, that they are noticing that cause them to go, I need to work with you, Neeta?
It could be a health issue. So maybe there's a chronic illness, or just a health scare. So they kind of know something's not quite right, something within them just, they sort of feel like something in their life just needs to be different. The medication alone isn't, or the exercise alone, change of diet alone isn't enough. So that's one thing. A breakdown of a relationship. That's another, as I say, kind of like a trigger that sort of leads them in to come talk to me. And then, I could say money, but I think really it's more about a desire to start to create something, and maybe, earn money through it. But it's as I say, a desire to create something from their gifts and talents. And maybe it's something that they thought about a long time ago, and as I say, they kind of pushed it to one side. Or maybe it's just something that's recently started to, bubble up in their mind. And then again, they're feeling a bit overwhelmed, not really sure where to start. And I talk a lot about getting unstuck and just, taking the steps just to get going. And I think in all areas, it feels a little bit like they need a little bit of hand holding just to get going, kind of build that momentum. And that's what we do together.
That's
So, yeah.
phenomenal. I can definitely identify with that and feel like, okay, that's exactly what I would have needed last year. Not that I don't necessarily need it now, but without, having met you yet, there was this opportunity to create, for example, this show that has given me a new, purpose, a new reason to get out of bed and, engage. even on the days when I'm going, this wasn't what I imagined about life. You know,
Mm.
it's not quite showing up the way that I expected it to. So I can definitely I identify with the women that would be coming to you and going, look, I don't know what it's supposed to be. I know what I wanted to do. I know a couple of skills that I might have that may or may not help this. But if you could just like help me see the things I can't see, the messages that are on the bridge of my nose, if you could, just talk me down off the ledge when things get overwhelming and, oh my gosh, have I bitten off more than I can chew? That is so valuable. And thank you so much for providing that.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's what I needed. Um, and, multiple times, I'd say, in my life. And it, yeah, it just sort of felt really natural for me to be able to offer that with my coaching. And it's not something that's long term either. I think often women just need, as I say, something. I have a 21-day program, and that one's really intensive, and that's really to get something off the ground. And often it could even just be something like, what, for example, I'm going through, someone might say, I'm going through a divorce and I'm really overwhelmed by all the things I have to do in the paperwork. And so I'm doing nothing. But I know that actually, if I get past this, everything else will start to fall into place, you know. And so even just doing something like that, and often that's done in like 2-3 days, and then we spend the rest of the time looking at, okay, well, now what's next, and what can you create? And and also looking at, you said women sort of using their talents. A lot of the time women don't even know what that is. They may not have an idea, and they'll come to me and say, I don't have any. I really don't. No, I don't, honestly. And I'll say, no, you do. There is something, and we're going to find it. And so,
Right.
and
It's
that's kind of,
amazes me how many housewives don't get the project manager skills that they have been
yeah,
doing by, multitasking for 20 years raising kids.
absolutely. Yeah. No, that's true. And there's so many things. And I think what happens is they get stuck as well when, I would say how will kill any idea. So you might have an idea or a desire, an inclination to do something, and that feels really, really good. And then your rational mind will come in and go, yeah, but how's that going to work? How are you going to do that? So what are the steps from A to Z, or Z, as you say? And you might go, well, A, I'll do this, B, I'll do this, C, D, I can't think any further. So then you just stop. And so again, it's so natural to do that though, isn't it? And go,
It
well,
is.
how will it work? What will I do? What are the exact steps? And instead, really, all you need are the first 1 or 2 steps, and to have that trust that the minute you've completed that first step, and this, or maybe the second step, the next step appears, and that's how it works.
It really
Um,
is like an old Indiana Jones movie.
it is right. I thought of that. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. It's exactly like that. I like that. I can use that. Thank you.
you're welcome.
In-
So, when I asked you about the top issues that bring a woman to you, the first thing that seemed to come to your mind was, it could be a health issue. So, how prevalent are, from my background, from my understanding, there is definitely a mind body connection. I have talked to so many women dealing with breast cancer who, by strange coincidence, grew up Catholic and really hated their role as a woman. They wanted to be so much more than their socio environment allowed for them. So
okay.
there seems in my small sample and looking for patterns, there seems to be a sense of, as a woman begins to hate her station in life, the body reflects that in, for example, breast cancer attacking the symbols of womanhood, uterine cancer, things like that. Now, this may be just a large leap of me talking to 3 people and go, wow, there seems to be a pattern here. But is there really a pattern between how women look at their lives and the physical impact that it has on their body that they might start noticing in midlife when your whole recipe for how your body runs changes?
Yeah, that's a good question, Gail. The way I see it, and this is from my own personal experience, because I've got MS, and I, I for many many years just ignored what my body was doing, as in this physical symptoms, and I just powered through, and they kind of became louder and louder, as in they got more and more intense. And it's it was just the way I operated for many, many years. I had a very much kind of, revved up, a really sort of, do lots of different things. And yeah, don't worry if you skip meals. Don't worry if you've got to do everything for everyone else first and then you last. It's fine, and I wanted to do everything, and I would often just do like 4 or 5 different things and just be flat out exhausted by the end of the day and then do it again, you know. Um, and all throughout that, as I say, I would just ignore things. I'd take painkillers and go, yeah, that headache will go away. Yeah, that pain will go away if I take painkillers. And then eventually, yeah, I just started to get quite sick. I remember getting lots of ear infections in Singapore. And it was to the point where 1 month, I think I was on antibiotics twice. And the doctor was about to give me antibiotics again. I was thinking, that's not right, is it? To be taking antibiotics so frequently. And at the time, I didn't know I had MS anyway. But what I saw was that eventually it caught up with me. And I see that a lot with women. And I think that it's normal if you think about it as well. You get to this sort of age, you get into your 40s and 50s, and you can't sort of, I don't know, bend down as easily or sit cross-legged as easily and do all of those other things. If I'm not that I ever could really sit cross-legged, even when I was younger, but you know what I mean. There's all these things that, yeah, you slow down a little bit, and I think all of that just starts to catch up with you. And so I'm not sure about the patterns. I haven't thought of it that way, but what I have seen is that the women I talk to who've got any kind of health scare or chronic illness, whatever it is, they will often say, yep, I can look back. And that's, something that they will do. They'll look back and they'll say, I can see exactly when these things started to happen. These symptoms came up and I ignored them. And then we look at, well, what's going on in your mind when these symptoms seem to intensify? And that's really the work that I do with them. And that's what I did, for myself. I just started to really see how, I have insecure thinking, just like everyone else, and I have secure thinking. But whenever I had any kind of insecure thinking, and it was usually this conditioned kind of habitual thoughts of, oh gosh, I'm going to be late. I don't want to be late. How will that look? I mean, it was ridiculous, the sort of stuff that I would get worked up over, or comparing myself to other women, or, well, what will people think? All of those things. My body would just start to react to it. And, it took me a long time to realize that the correlation there. But ever since I have, yeah, I can pretty much tell now, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not looking after myself. I'm really caught up in my head. I think that all my thinking is true,
Right.
or I believe all of my feelings, and that all of my feelings are, that they're really telling me something. And this isn't a way of suppressing. I don't believe in suppressing your feelings at all, but it's about allowing, accepting and allowing what you're feeling, and good or bad, right? And but really paying attention to, as I said, can I see that I'm just really caught up in that old, stale, conditioned thinking. And actually, this is what tends to happen in my body.
Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. As you were talking, it comes to mind that I've struggled with some scalp psoriasis for like 15 years. And it gets worse when I'm not doing my own business. When I,
Oh,
like actively planning or executing a plan for the things that I was built to do here on this planet by my base experiences. So when I actually am like in the flow of doing what I came here to do, it goes away. It doesn't bother me.
yeah.
When I'm focused on others, taking care of other people's stuff, or working a job for someone else, it goes nuts, absolutely nuts. And I didn't really make that connection until you were just talking about it, that there's a certain pattern of thinking when I'm doing my own stuff as opposed to when I'm working for somebody else, right? That is healthier for me than when I'm in that pattern of thinking of working for somebody else and taking care of other people's stuff instead of what I was brought here to do. And it's very subtle, isn't it? I mean, you really have to look to find the correlation, but once you do, it's like whole new possibilities are open. Oh,
Well, I
that's
love,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, I love that. And I love what you said there about when you said, I'm in flow. And I think that's that sort of, I'm going to talk not about how to get in flow or what it's just that feeling, right? When we know yeah, I'm really comfortable with myself. I always sort of think about it that way. I kind of talk about when I'm just being myself,
Mm-hmm.
there's I'm really comfortable with who I am. I'm just being me. And things feel effortless then.
Mm-hmm.
That's that flow.
Yep.
And that's what you're describing, is that actually because you're experiencing that flow by doing something, you're doing something that you love. I would also guess that there are probably times where even when you were working for somebody, you may have also been in that flow, but maybe not as much. Or maybe you thought, you know what, I'd love to do this for myself. And great, you
Yeah.
know, that's your guidance telling you, yeah, this is what I'd love to do, and this is what's right for me. And that's really, yeah, that's what was so important for me. Was I tell this story of how I was dealing with a lot of pain along the left side of my body from the MS, early on when I was diagnosed with it. And I thought, I'm not going to take painkillers, but my head really hurts. It's quite tender and painful. And I decided to just sit down and watch TV and watch a comedy show for 30 minutes. And I got really engrossed in it. I was loving it. I was laughing. I was on my own. And it finished, and I turned the TV off. And it was about 10, 15 minutes later that I realized that the pain had disappeared. It just
Mm.
gone. And I got
Amazing.
really curious when I thought, well, I didn't take any medication. I didn't sit differently or do something special or stretch or go for a jog or whatever, do some yoga. But what it was actually, I was just not focused on thinking about the pain, the MS, and what it meant, and why, and this, and they, all of that stuff, that conditioned thinking.
Right.
And I was just in that flow. I was just in the moment. That's what I was doing. I was here. It was right here, and I was enjoying it. And and then I started, after that, I started to pay attention to when it would arrive again, the pain. Well, what's going on? What's going on? Kind of like you did, where you talked about the psoriasis, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got really curious, like, oh, it's back. What's going on here? And I started to see some ridiculous things about how I would get these sort of stressful, feelings within me, just because, as I said, I was going to a meeting, with a group of fellow coaches, and I didn't want to be late, but I was a bit lost. And all of that started to that revved up thinking started to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to limp. And I realized, when I got to this meeting, I thought, that's really interesting. Actually, I realized that's happened to me twice before. And
Interesting.
I was right, I was kind of getting lost in thoughts, and literally lost, and just worrying about it.
Wow.
So I just started to sort of look at it, and I always say, just see it for yourself, experiment with this, kind of just, try it out for yourself and see if that is true for you. But yeah, that mind-body connection, absolutely. I've
Stuff.
definitely seen it for myself.
Now, I wanna direct our attention for a minute into that. You have a 21-day program, like you mentioned earlier. It's pretty intense, but our viewers can get 20% off on the cost of it if they mention that they saw you on the spotlight. I thank you so much for that. On their behalf, I think that's a wonderful offer. And then also, we've got a freebie for everybody, right? A free 30-minute consultation at New Life. Just follow the link in the description. That'll take you right to Neeta's Calendly, and you can set up your appointment for that. So I wholeheartedly, 100%, universes and beyond, encourage you to do that. If you are in midlife and you are a little bit unfocused and lost for what you want to actually give the rest of your life into, reach out to Neeta. I mean, I love her energy. I think she's phenomenal. I know that she's made a huge difference with a lot of people so far in the past, and I've learned a lot from her very much, even in just the short period of time that we've had to talk to each other. So I definitely encourage all of you out there to get that consultation. Go to the link, schedule it now. Now, one last thing before we tidy up everything. Why is it so important in midlife for women to get into this space of giving up what people think about them?
Yeah, that's I won't go on about it too long. Don't cut me off if I do, but it's it's just one of those things. I said it kind of leads on also from that comparison piece as well, that I see with a lot of women, and I was definitely one of them. But it's a lot of it's to do with, as I say, you kind of tend to put certain parts of yourself to one side, and you get on with life, and you get on with doing things that you have to do. And expressing yourself is something that I see that a lot of women have an issue with. They want to say something, they want to speak up, but they don't. They kind of want to do something, but they're a bit concerned about being seen, being visible. And all of that's to do with, what will people think? Well, what will so and so think? And, oh, I don't know if I'm doing this the right way, and is this how I should be doing it? And there's so much around all of that. I mean, it's fascinating actually, but at the end of the day, again, it goes back to, if you can start to, if you've got that desire to go, I just want to be myself. I just want to go out there and have fun and do something at this point in my life that feels generative, that feels expansive, that I'm growing, maybe I'm contributing, I'm creating, I'm making this time for myself, then all of those things, they start to get a little bit louder, like the what will people think? But yeah, but what will people think? Or, I'm not used to being seen in this light, or will I have to kind of go out there? I'm a bit of an introvert, or I'm not used to being out there. How do I deal with it? And so it's all tied in together. But I think once that desire is there, yeah, I just want to be me, or I want to find out who me is, and not keep reinventing even, I want to kind of take off all those layers and, well, who am I really? And kind of come back to yourself. Then all of those sort of concerns start to die down quite naturally, actually, and you find that courage within you. You don't have to fake confidence or anything like that. You find this courage within you, and you get out there and you start taking action. And that's the key. Take action, and things start to happen.
Phenomenal. I have very much enjoyed our conversation today. I want to give you the opportunity to just give a couple of final thoughts to our audience before we say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube and send everyone on their way into a great weekend.
Yeah, well, thank you, Gayle. It's been amazing. I've loved talking to you. And yeah, I would just say, just start to look at who you really are, and that sort of without all these roles, of wife, mother, daughter, sister, all of that, the job, all of those things, and kind of peel it all back and sort of look at, well, who were you when you were younger, and what did you enjoy, and that flow, that joy that's within you, that's still there, that's always there. We might look at creating a best version of ourselves, but actually there's really one version, and that version's really cool. And if you can just go back to that, oh my gosh, there's, and embrace it and just get out there in the world, you'll have a blast.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Again, Neeta, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you so much for what you do for the world. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much.
All right, Facebook, have a fantastic day ahead, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
When you open yourself to energy, work, recovery, progressor, that recoverable. You do not have to live as a victim until your last days. You have unbelievable strength, and I know that because you're still here. Do you want to create something completely unrecognizable with your life? I can show you how.